actually sounded like thunder. Let's go and see. So we've talked before about how creative individuals tend to find it to be more difficult to form a rigid sense of identity. All of us ask ourselves, who do I want to become? But even more prominently, it seems to me like the question I hear more often is, who am I? They seem to be searching for this deeper underlying truth, something that is inherent in themselves, something that has always been within and perhaps always will be, that our destiny is sort of locked within the entirety of our being. Like all of the future potential is already within us. And that's why we ask, who am I? Not only who you are right now, but everything that you could be in the future. And I'm not exactly confident that that way of thinking would be wrong. I think it depends on how you want to start decoding that as a question as well as an answer. But in this video, we're going to talk about a strategy, how to find out who you really are right now. We're also going to talk about how to put yourself on the best path of defining who you wish to become. Now, firstly, I think it's problematic if you're asking, who am I, without really wanting to know the brutal, honest answer to that in terms of who and what you are right now. I feel like when people ask, who am I, it's this sort of hopeful projection into the future. Like, what can I be? What is the most fundamental part of me? What sort of skills, talents lie within? And that question sort of comes with the glorious assumption that the answer to that is only that potential, theoretical, best version of yourself. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but it can't be the only thing you're thinking about. So when you ask, who am I, you want to get really practical and raw and realistic. And most likely you're going to find an answer that isn't to your liking. If you actually break down your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly routines, what you spend your time on, how much you learn or how much you don't, how much you grow, develop mentally, physically, in terms of your wisdom, life experiences, perspectives, all of this stuff is really quantifiable, but we don't tend to like to quantify it because most of the time it reveals our insufficiencies and shortcomings. But there's also the things that you do know, the things that you are good at. And all of that information could actually give you an answer to who you are, where you are right now, and where you could possibly go in the not so distant future, or perhaps in the distant future. And if you truly want to find out who you are and what you could be, you need to suffer. You need to struggle, because in the midst of struggle and suffering, you're going to very precisely figure out who the hell you are right now. What are your fears? What are your shortcomings? What are your possible strengths? What is your character like? What are the things you believe in? Do you actually uphold those things when things get tough? But finding yourself in all of that difficulty is not something most people want to do. They want to do it comfortably, tiny steps by steps, when they feel like it, where they feel like it. And I don't think that's going to get you very far. And I don't think you can expose the entire truth of yourself unless you really put yourself in positions that break you or almost break you, primarily for the reason that you can't hide. There's no story you can tell yourself. There's no perspective that you can utilize to run away from your insufficiencies. I don't think you can build your future self without facing the insufficiencies of your current self. We dream and romanticize about who we are going to become, yet almost nobody wants to be fully submerged in the process of finding out how to get there. And most people, when they have a glimpse of that, so someone breaks your heart, something difficult happens, someone betrays you, something horrific happens, or you fuck up, and that fuck up costs you your life. In those moments, you see the insufficiencies in yourself. And everyone has a choice of whether they accept that truthfully, face it, learn from it, and do better next time, or then they make some sort of a alternative narrative about it, a different story. It's because of them. It's because of that guy, or that government, or that corporation, or how rotten society and humanity is. There's so many stories you can tell yourself, but none of those things are really gonna do anything for you. They're a great way of procrastinating in terms of self-development, always moving the blame and the fault on someone else so that you never have to admit or face your faults. But I don't want this to be completely uninspiring either. That inkling, that picture of that beautiful version of yourself, that best version of yourself, it's not only an idea, it's also an intuition. Because all of us have some sort of talent, all of us have some sort of gifts, and in addition to those, we also have a unique skill set that lends itself well to a specific task. And in most cases, that task is most likely a combination of what you're naturally interested in, as well as what has gotten you through life so far. Because we get good at the things that we repeat. We get good at the things that we need to use to survive and adapt and flourish. And we also naturally gravitate towards things that we like, and therefore we spend more time doing those and become better. And we know all of this, not necessarily in a clearly articulated manner, but at least intuitively, because people let you know when you do something right. You get positive feedback for the things that are good and negative for the ones that aren't. So it's not like we're blindfolded about our potential. The world constantly gives you feedback on that, but you can't access that potential unless you get practical. And when you get practical, all of your insufficiencies, shortcomings, weaknesses are going to be revealed. They're going to rise up and you're going to have to face them. Now, it's frightening at first, but learning to love the process, learning to love failure, learning to love the truth, all those things are learnable skills. They're perspectives, they're mindsets, they're practical things that you can bring into your life through repetition and learning. Get raw, get brutal, get truthfully honest with yourself and figure out who and what you are right now. As disappointing as it is, as much as it's embarrassing and humiliating to admit that, yes, I'm only a vaguely resembling, ghostly image of that person. That's what I am. That's the truth of it. And you must accept it, because if you don't, you're going to tell yourself another story. Oh, well, I'm this way because of that. And now you go chasing something that you're not really looking for. May that be wealth, status, whatever else, acceptance in the eyes of people that you don't really give a shit about. That's what most people go out and do. They chase a version of themselves that they never liked, and more importantly, a version of themselves that they never respected or could respect. And that's why so many people can find themselves in a position where they get old and they realize that they've wasted their life working on a person that they never were to begin with or never wished to become. All because they couldn't accept their true story, and they didn't take the struggle and the hardship and the suffering that was unique and necessary to you. You were always building towards being someone else. So please get brutally honest about who you are right now. What are the things that you are doing right now that you're doing well? What are the skills and talents that you already have? What are all of the things that you're doing wrong or not doing at all that you should be doing? And only once you pull all of that information together and accept it and acknowledge it, then you can figure out what is the right next step forward towards becoming who I wish to become. Finished.